Hi! In this video we will keep improving our 2D shooter tutorial, and now, following the suggestions of this comment, we will add a grenade as a weapon to our player. This will for sure be the longest tutorial so far, but I hope you enjoy it. We will create this grenade as a weapon, so that the player can change the weapon between the normal gun and the grenade. So let's start creating the weapons menu. Let's create a new scene. Now we can add a color rect to be the background. Let's change the size and the color. Let's add a center container to centralize the content. And inside of it we can create an HBox container. Now we can add two texture rects to hold the sprites from the gun and from the grenade. I drew them both so they are not so good. I will use an H-split container to create a space between them. Let's set the size of the container and expand the sprite. Okay, not that bad. Now let's add a rich label text. This text will be the number to select this weapon. This will be the number 1. We can centralize the text. Let's add an outline. And let's change the space at the top. I think this is okay, so we can copy it and paste it at the other texture rect. Let's just change the text here to number 2. Now let's create a script. We will need a variable to hold the selected weapon. Let's add the numbers 1 and 2 to the input map so that the player will be able to change the selected weapon. Now we catch the input. If 1 is pressed, we change the selected weapon to 1 and change the color of the numbers. We will write this function soon. Then we make the same test for the number 2. Now we can create this setColors function. In this function we will just check if the selected variable is 1 or not and change the colors of the numbers. Let's run it to check. Okay, it is working. Let's just call the setColors function when the scene starts, so that the number 2 will start disabled. Now we know the scene is working as expected, but as we will access the selected gun later from other scenes, let's turn this variable to a global variable. Let's rename it to selected gun to make it easier to identify what it makes. Now we can add it to the global script. And we can start it with 1, so when the game starts the normal gun will be selected. Now let's add a menu to see it inside the game. Let's bring it to the bottom of the screen. Let's run it. And there's our weapons menu. Simple, but it's working. Now we need to create a grenade. So let's create a new scene. Let's change the root node to rigid body 2D. Now we can add a sprite and a collision shape. Let's add a timer. We will use this timer to explode the grenade after a given time. And we can create a script. First, we can add a function that will be called when the timer's time is out. We can code it later. Let's create a function to throw the grenade. We can name it throw. Let's put a parameter to pass the strength we will use to throw the grenade. In this example, I will just use a fixed value. Then we apply an impulse to the grenade. We don't need an offset, so we can pass a vector 2D of 0. And the second parameter will be the strength. Let's create a strength variable. I will create this variable because we need to change the direction we will throw the grenade if the players turn to the left or to the right. So we can use a similar system as we used at the bullet. We can use the direction variable here too. Strength will receive the impulse vector. And the direction will be received with the init function like we did with the bullet. Let's change the name here to direction. And here I forgot to put the .x because we just want to change the value in the x-axis. Now, when the timer's time is out, we want the grenade to explode. So let's create this function. But before we create this function to explode the grenade, we will need the explosion scene. So let's create a new scene. We can save this scene as explosion. We can add an animated sprite to make the explosion. This is a free sprite. I will put the link at the description so you can check it if you want. Let's add the frames. Now let's add the speed and adjust it. I think 30 FPS is okay here. Now we can add a collision shape so that the explosion can hit the enemy. Let's adjust it. Now let's add a script to the explosion to manage everything. So first, when the scene starts, we want the explosion animation to play. Let's set the frame here to 0, and we can unmark the plane. So now we have a basic explosion. Let's go back to the explode grenade function. So when the grenade explodes, we need the timer to stop. Then we set the rigid body physics to sleeping. This will make the body stay at the explosion position. Now we can preload the explosion and create a variable to hold the instance later. And here at the function we can create the instance now. We don't want to kill the grenade immediately after the explosion because we need to wait the explosion animation to finish first. So we can just set the sprite visibility to false for now. And we add the explosion as a child. To finish, we will connect to the explosion because we want to know when the explosion animation finishes to kill the grenade at this moment. Then we create this function grenade exploded to be called when the animation finishes to kill the grenade. Now let's go back to the explosion. First, let's create this exploded signal that we are listening at the grenade function. Now let's connect this animation finished signal to the script. And when it finishes, we want the animation to stop. And we need to fire the signal to the grenade. Okay, now we can go back to the player to start to make the player able to throw the grenade. So here at the shoot function we will add a test to check if the selected gun is 1 or 2. If it is 1, we keep the current shoot. And if it is not 1, we need to throw the grenade. So let's preload the grenade and create another variable to hold the instance. Now we can instantiate the grenade. We can add it as a child of the parent like we did to the bullet to avoid to make it move when the player moves. Then we pass the direction to the init function. Then we adjust the start position to the position 2D node. And finally we can call the throw function. And here we need to pass a vector 2D with the strength we want. Now we can take a look to see what we have at the moment. Okay, so we need to fix the gravity. Let's go back to the grenade. Let's set the gravity scale to 10 and try again. And there we have a grenade that didn't explode and it seems to be interacting with the NPC because it's freezing my potato computer. Let's fix that too. So first let's change the grenade layer to bullet. And it needs to interact with the enemies, with the ground and with the platforms. Now we can change the timer to 1 shot and auto start. And let's run it again. And there we have a pretty nice grenade that can be thrown and explodes. Cool. Now we need to make it hit the enemy. The concept I will use is that the explosion is what damages the enemy. I guess that's similar to the real world. So first let's check the collision layer of the explosion. We can change it to bullet. And we just want it to interact with the enemy. As our enemy is an area, we need to use the signal for area entered. And then we can check if the area entered is at the enemy's layer. That, as we can see, is the value 2. And if it is, we need to call the hitted function. But I will do a small change here. Our current hitted function destroys the bullet, because that's what we want with normal bullets. But we don't want the enemy to destroy the explosion. So we will make a small change here and set the default value of the parameter to null. So if no parameter is passed, no bullet will be destroyed. And then we can go back to the explosion. And now we can destroy the area 2D, so it will just collide once. Now let's test it. And it is working fine. But we can improve it a bit, making the grenade explode when it hits the enemy. I'm not totally sure we can call it an improvement, because it depends on what you are trying to achieve, but let's make it anyways. So let's open the enemy scene. Now let's add a signal to inform if a body enters the area. And we can check if this body's name is granade. Let's check if it really is. And it's not, so let's rename it. Let's go back. So if grenade is in the body's name, we want to explode the grenade. Nice, it seems to work. And there we have a little problem. The grenade still exists during explosion, and because of that it can still collide with new enemies. So let's fix that. So here at the explode grenade function, we can just destroy the collision shape. And that should fix the problem. Let's check it. Okay, everything seems to work fine now. And this is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If so, please consider subscribe, comment, give a thumbs up, and thank you for watching. Bye!